This is the review for Graphics 2 and for the final exam for Graphics 2. When you get to Illustrator here, I'm just going to reset the workspace. Okay, so first, if you go to File and New inside of Illustrator, you will see a little measurement piece, which we didn't talk about too much this year, but I want to be sure you covered, and it is on the test. So, click on the side here. You can go to inches and you can type in the size of the document that you want. If I type in 1 inch, just as an example, and then I switch back to picas, which is a commonly used graphic design measurement system, you'll see that it's 6. So there are 6 picas for every 1 inch. Remember that. I'm going to type it in here just so any notes we want to kind of take as you go. So there's going to be 6 picas for every inch. All right, for every 1 inch, I should say. All right, next up. This white area that you're seeing here with the black line around it, it's the printable portion of the work area where your illustrations are finalized, and that is called your artboard. So this is considered your artboard. Let's put that in there. Okay, that's the second thing that we just talked about, artboard. Okay, number 3. If you create something, like a rectangle or any other shape, and you click and drag, right, and I color it whatever color that I want to. I have now changed the the properties of it by changing its color or by adding, let's say, a stroke color and all that stuff, right? I've changed the way that it looks, but I haven't changed the underlying structure of it. So properties of an object that change its look without changing its underlying structure are considered attributes. So these things like the color, the stroke, those are all attributes. The drop shadow, those are called attributes. All right, next one. When you use the pen tool and you create a shape, like this as an example, and every time I click and I pull and I get these little handlebars where I can bend the line, those are called Bezier curves. So they're mathematically generated curves that have 2 endpoints and control points. We know with that little point in the center. Those are called Bezier curves. So you know how it's spelled. I'm just going to type it in right here. That's what that is actually called. Those little handlebars that when you click on, you get those little arrows with the handlebars, and then you can turn the handlebars. Those are called Bezier curves. Now, hopefully at this point you also know that from Photoshop, what we used to work in Photoshop, I'm just going to open up something real quick just to show you. If I open up a file like this and I zoom in real close, you see that it's made up of pixels. So images created using a grid of small squares called pixels, also called raster images or pixel images. These are also called bitmap images. Now in Illustrator, when we do that, when we zoom in, we do not get that same look. These are called vector images. So Illustrator creates vector images, not bitmap or raster or pixel images. Okay, those are really from Photoshop, but Illustrator creates vector images. Okay, next. A temporary frame around a selected object that shows the object's outermost dimensions. They're little white hollow like squares that show an object. So for example, if I were to click on any piece, like if I click on this piece, right, you can see I selected the gray there of the ladder. If I switch back to the black arrow, all of a sudden there's this box that goes around the whole thing, and at the ends of them they have these little white hollow boxes. That is called a bounding box, and that's where you can hold shift and resize or rotate. That's called your bounding box. Okay, bounding box. Okay, the color model used for printing, for output printing, right? So when I go to a new file here, you're going to see that it asks us about color mode at the bottom. And you see I have up CMYK or RGB. Now RGB stands for red, green, blue, and the CMYK color most commonly associated with printers is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. CMYK color mode. That color mode can't be changed unless you're exporting. So when you do the file in new, you have to change that color mode here in that area. If you have an object, any kind of object, doesn't matter what it is, it could be, this little object here like this. If you want to resize it, you can pull from the corner and you can squeeze it and stretch it. But if you want to force an object to take a certain form, you can hold shift, and that will allow it to constrain the proportions so it stays the same height and width and proportion of height and width throughout the increase or decrease in size. If you let go of shift, all of a sudden you can really stretch it and squish it and squeeze it. So that is to really constrain the proportions. The keyboard shortcut for constraining it is shift. Just remember, you gotta hold shift. As soon as you let go, you get that squish. Okay, up next, we're going to do the last few questions here, and that's going to be when you go to File and New, there are two different page orientations. You can have orientation of vertical and orientation of, you can see here, horizontal. In order to get directly to the selection tool, like the black arrow, you see there, you just click on the V on your keyboard, and you'll get directly to that tool. The V will take you directly there. That's the shortcut key for the selection tool in Adobe Illustrator. And also, please remember that the Illustrator is a vector-based program. The height and width of this artboard that we're looking at can be changed if you go to Document Setup. And here you can adjust the bleed of it, and you can edit the artboard by increasing this outside edge and thus increasing the size or decreasing the size of the artboard at any time. And then you just have to hit return to OK it. And now I've resized the artboard. So you can do that at any time. You can change the height and width of an artboard after you create it. If you want to paste in Illustrator, just remember there's a few different kinds of pastes. There's regular paste, which is Command V. Then there's paste in front, Command F, and paste in back, Command B. There's a few others, but these are the three that we typically use in Illustrator. So if you're looking to paste something in front, be sure that you're doing Command and F on your keyboard. Command and the letter F will give you a paste in front. If you're using any of the brush tools, paintbrush or blob brush, and you want to switch to the smooth tool, which is here, all you have to do is hold Option on your keyboard. So if I click the smooth tool, but then I am in one of the brush tools and I'm starting to draw with the brush tool, and then all of a sudden I want to switch to the smooth tool, I just hold Option, and now I can smooth it out. Now I have to select it first, and then I can go to that smooth tool and I can smooth it out. But Option will help you switch back and forth between tools. Option is what you want. Anytime you're on basically any tool, like the pen tool, let's say, and you want to get back to the selection tool, you can just hit Command on your keyboard, and you see it switches back to the little arrow. That works on most tools, even like the eraser, for example. I'm on the eraser now, but I want to switch back to the selection tool. I hold Command, and I have the arrow back. Remember that this tool, the black arrow, is called the selection tool. I'll go back on it so you can see the selection tool. And this one is the direct selection tool. The white one with no plus sign. White arrow is called the direct selection tool.